Guccione here. Got my Sunday best on here from chasing my kid around the grocery store doing some errands this morning. And on the way back I had an idea for another follow-up post. I've done 2 recent posts about the deadlift. If you haven't, go ahead and check them out, just the last few weeks. We started off with talking about a drill that you can use to check your alignment and your movement pattern for the deadlift to make sure that's solid. Last week we talked about the lockout position, so the importance of starting and finishing the lift the same way, having a great alignment, good core stability. So today I wanted to follow up potentially with my final post, for now at least, about deadlifts, and talk about how to use your leverage efficiently no matter what you're lifting. So what I'm going to do is start off, we're going to have 3 different things that we're going to lift, and then talk about the differences and similarities in each item and the movement pattern utilized, the alignment, hopefully which would be the same. So we're going to start with barbell deadlift, we're going to do a kettlebell deadlift, and then a household item, and we'll talk through each one of them as we go. Alright, here we go. Starting in the lockout position. Get your grip. Down. You keep the core stable until you let it go. So what you can see with the barbell deadlift, if done properly, it's a very safe, very efficient lift. So when I talk about leverage, when you're lifting something up, you really want to get as close as possible to that item. Really with the barbell, you don't get much closer, you just walk right up to it, and that tells you this is where you start the lift. And as you're doing the lift, naturally, because of the alignment of the barbell, it's going to stay close to your body. Your arms are going to remain in place. They're being pulled down a little bit by gravity, by the weight, and you keep your core tight, you lift it up, and you lock it out with your glutes at the end like we talked about. So sometimes when you have smaller items, maybe items that aren't as heavy, the tendency might be just to say, okay, I'm just going to walk up and lift this thing and not think about leverage and not think about how that's going to impact the effect on your body, how you're lifting it, and maybe effects you might feel later, maybe not that day, maybe not next week, but if you repetitively do something with using poor leverage, what it might end up with. So we're going to move along, we're going to do a kettlebell deadlift. So kettlebell's right here, if we can see it. There we go, bottom of the screen here. So what I want to let you all know about, basically, so if I approach something, I say, okay, let's say that's my kettlebell, that's a box. If I just kind of lean down and say I'm going to lift it up, before I even lift it up, naturally it's going to move closer to me. So if I'm being stubborn and I'm trying to keep it out here, I'm going to strain a lot harder than I need to with this particular weight. So using the example of the kettlebell, it's a smaller, more dense, heavier item. I can walk right over the top of it, which is the best thing to do. Really have it right in your center of mass, right in between your stance here, and then you deadlift like you've seen previously. Right up, lock it out. There we go. So now, household item. Got this nice little handy dandy wicker basket. Right now it's being used to hold socks. And conveniently it's got handles on it, so I know exactly how I'm going to pick it up. I've surveyed the situation, so for contrast, we've got 135 pounds, we have 53 pounds with the kettlebell, I don't know, 2 or 3 with the socks. But anyways, you really want to treat it the same way, like we talked about. So, lockout position, core tight, proper movement pattern, use those handles because you got them, lock it out. You could carry it around. Once you get somewhere, set it down the same way, and you're up. Now, let's assume it didn't have handles. What do? Again, take a look at the thing. The weight, you know, is manageable. So what you're going to do, same concept, come on down. Here what we're going to do is tilt, reach under. Same deal. Down. Alright, so to wrap that up, hope that made sense as far as applying the same principles and techniques regardless of what you're doing. What you want to be able to do is take your focus from the gym, the technique, the work you're putting in, and apply it to day-to-day life, really, to make that easier for you, because we all have to lift and move stuff around the house. So here's a few quick tips on assessing the situation if you're going to have a lift around the house. So let's say it's a bigger item like a box. Like, you know you can lift it, but you're thinking about, okay, is that something that I should do? So let's say you see these toters back there. They've got some handles on it, so as long as the weight isn't unmanageable, you can do that pretty easily. Let's say it's a bigger cardboard box. You're just rearranging some stuff, and you take a look at it. You think maybe you can get your arm around it, but whatever's in there is really heavy, and you're not sure about keeping that proper alignment. Like, can you do it without reaching forward and getting your arm around it? If you're ever coming into a situation like that with an item, Coach Dom is going to recommend that you don't lift it by yourself. Maybe you enlist the help of a friend. Maybe you take some items out of the box and split it up a little bit. You always have to ask yourself, is whatever I'm doing here, whether it be in the gym or around the house, is that really worth me potentially injuring myself or waking up with a stiff sore back? Nobody wants that. So once again, just to recap, leverage. When you're lifting something, you want to make sure you start with it close to your body, as close as possible. Sometimes boxes, you have to come right up to the front like you do with the barbell, but with a lot of things, whether it be if you work in an office, boxes of paper, something like this here, even if it's a little bit heavier, you can actually walk right over the top of it and get it right under your center of mass, make sure your grip's solid, and really minimize any sort of strain on your back as long as you're doing it with proper technique. Another thing with barbell deadlift, it is a great lift. It's very safe, very good for building strength and emphasizing core stability and proper lifting techniques. That being said, if you've never done it before, I don't recommend going out and getting an Olympic weight set like you see here. Used to be, when I started, that you pretty much had to be able to lift 135 that you see back there, because if you used smaller weights, it's closer to the ground, and if you're taller, that might be a little bit more inaccessible. You have to maybe get yourself in a bad position with mobility-wise. But these days, the deadlift is really accessible to anybody who wants to be able to do that kind of lift, because they make different weights of bars. The bar right here was 45 pounds. They make a lot of different shapes and sizes of bars, different shapes and sizes of Olympic plates, so that you can have that same baseline of a starting point, and you can load it up with 35, 45 pounds, and you can groove that solid technique, and you can still use that. So again, haven't done it before, I don't recommend just going out and buying something like this. Get coached up, make sure your technique is solid before you start doing that on your own, but once you have that down, it's a great lift you can do at home, at the gym, anywhere. So again, leverage. Remember leverage day to day, and we'll talk to you next time, all right? Thanks.